from Abby Warner.
Rick Horrow, again at the Women in Tech Summit, the overview of one of the most unique events anywhere in sports. People have amazing sporting events like golf tournaments, and people have incredible summit events, but nobody that I know has both of them. And one of the co-chairs of this event, an organizer, Abby Warner, who also is Vice President of Operations for the Brookfield Group. That's one hat you wear.
Yep.
Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Put your other hat on, and let's talk about the summit. The summit that's happening, empowerment, all of the goals and objectives of this event. I know it's long-time planning. We've had it for a number of years, so talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is our third year. We basically started with the objective of, like, we've got to do something, right? Okay. We need to bring women. We've got to start the conversation. And in the 3 years that I've been involved, it has grown year over year. I think we had around 300 attendees the first year. We were up to 450 last year. Now we're at 600. And we're going to expand past the capacity of our room here shortly. So it's been exciting.
Get a bigger room. That's okay.
Yeah.
We're here, by the way, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The conference was held just down 500 yards from here. Mark Miles and his people, they'll find a room. There's not going to be an issue about that. But as far as the message that this event sends, it is really who's who in the Indiana tech world, but it's also who's who in diversity and inclusion. So talk a little bit about the people that are here.
Yeah, so we invite tech leaders from all over Indiana, basically. This year we did a little bit of a shift in who we invited, spreading out not just the senior level leaders, but also adding in some mid-level managers and such as well. But we asked each of the invitees to bring a high performer from their team, because one of the most important things is that this conversation be not just happen at the senior level, right? It has to be carried down through the entire organization. And, diversity is by far one of the most important things when you're building a team.
And one of the things that's very clear in the mandate of the conference, and you look at all the wording, it's the diversity and inclusion, but for the entrepreneurs, for middle managers, for the entire, as you said, the team. So it provides some very important goals and objectives, but also it defines the audience of who ought to be listening to the messages as well.
Yes, definitely. And our goal this year was really to bring back some actionable takeaways for the attendees. So one of our speakers, Julie Lyle, she has a thing called You Inc., right? And it's about writing the business plan for yourself, writing the business plan for your own career development. And that's important, is for, women coming out of college, or, maybe just getting started in their career, even halfway through. You got to think, about the long-term objective of what you're trying to achieve.
Well, and your story is kind of interesting, obviously very interesting. Brookfield Group is a business telephone systems and data solutions company, I'm told, understand, and you've been involved, clearly you're VP of operations, so risen that ladder, but you've been involved in this event for a while. How personally have you gotten involved, and what's the story of rising to co-chair of this event?
So it's kind of funny, because the first co-chair, or the first chair of the event was a female by the name of MT Ray, and her and I are friends. And there were several of us women leaders in the community, in the tech community, and she said, hey, let's just start a morning coffee. Get together. We all are passionate about similar things. We all believe that women need a stronger voice, that we need to encourage women throughout their careers and to invite more women in. And so it started with coffee. After our first meeting, she happened to run into former Mayor Greg Ballard over dinner, and he said, hey, we're going to start this foundation. I'd love for you to be a part of it. It's called Indie Women in Tech. And she said, funny you say that, because 2 weeks ago I had coffee with some wonderful, top performers in the community. And so the next month when we got together, she said, so here's what we're going to do. And so I think there were 10 of us at the time. We sought out to begin the planning of the first event. And then in year 2, MT and I co-chaired together. And then this year, sort of MT rolled off after her second year, and I stepped in. And as we looked at, just the trajectory of the event, and as we think about the 3 years that we're here, it's about diversity, right? It's not just a women's conference.
Yeah.
It's important that men are included in this conversation. So we diversified the co-chair with David Kerr, who was my co-chair this year. We diversified our planning committee. We invited some men in and people of color and different backgrounds outside of kind of the friend and social networking group that we had. And I think it worked, honestly. I mean, our numbers were up. We had more men in the room this year than what we had last year. So it was good.
And it's not over. I mean, but part of the benefit of creating something like this is it's sustainable, and there's a legacy attached to it. So talk about the future a little bit.
So we have a couple of things in the works, right? We have some coffee talks that we're going to be rolling out, as well as some ongoing communication to attendees and such. And then when we think about next year, right around the corner in May, we don't have a final date yet, but May of 2020 is when the next summit will be held.
Yes, and it'll be a big deal because one of the things that happens with this kind of event, I think, especially in a town like Indianapolis, is that the golf tournament is great, but then that provides the platform to sustain and to grow and to thrive.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, it's funny because I look at tech, right? I look at it from a tech lens, but it's not just tech. It's Indianapolis as a whole. Our community is welcoming and encouraging of each other at a level that isn't the same. Last night I was having dinner with one of the keynote speakers who was from the West Coast, and she said, you don't have the same level of connection amongst the different companies. There's so much competition that exists out there. So yeah, as we look at the future and where we're going, I think it's going to be a great move for us.
Why is Indianapolis so special? And by that I mean those of us who are students of the history of sports around the country understand Lilly and the Hoosier Dome and the Colts and Pan Am Games and the Super Bowl, but this has been known as the amateur sports capital of the world, but it's gotten so much bigger, and everybody that knows Indianapolis thinks of it as a community that can galvanize for the greater good. Talk about that.
So I don't even know what to say.
Well, but no, when you think about how Indianapolis, and it may be hard because you live here and you don't realize how special it is, but yet when you get together and you realize that you want to put something together structurally, Dan Towers comes along, and then you have an event, and then you get to the next step and the next step, and there's been a history of amateur sports and Super Bowl attraction that makes it easier.
100%. So the interesting thing, I think, about Indianapolis, and I heard someone say last year on the local organizing committee that no other city that a company like the LPGA goes to, or NBA, NFL, whatever it may be, they pull together representatives from throughout the community and create a local organizing committee to really focus in on the different items that have to be accomplished to make it a successful event. So, I mean, it is, I would say we are one of probably the most networked and supportive communities that exist.
So let's look to the crystal ball for a second. As the golf tournament has created this legacy, and as you have the 2021, the NBA All-Star Game, and you apply for Super Bowls again, and all of the facilities that have been created, sports has been a tool of economic development. It's really kind of a trade show that brings now the tech community together. So where does that all go in the next few years? Moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. I see us continuing to bid for events, like you said, Super Bowl, continued basketball events, and so on and so forth. I don't see that changing. But, I mean, honestly, the tech community is here to support it. whether it be sponsorships or events hosted, we congregate to these types of things. So
every community needs somebody like Abby Warner, co-chair of the event here, and look out, because Indianapolis will continue to survive and thrive. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
The event's been